instead of me thinking about it now, my whole team is thinking about it over and over again. At some point, someone is going to stumble upon a YouTube video or an article, or they're going to have a conversation with a customer. They're going to see something differently because we talked about this, because I kept it top of mind, that they might have missed otherwise. Having those conversations opens the door for you and others to see things that you would not have seen on your own, okay? You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to solve every problem for yourself. Your team can be a tremendous help, but you have to talk to them. You have to include them. Welcome to Your Business is Not Your Boss. I am your host, Geoff Welch, and I help small business owners overcome overwhelm and replace overthinking with intentional action. What is up? Welcome to episode 45 of Your Business is Not Your Boss. I am your host and small business coach, Geoff Welch, and today we are going to talk about the importance of having some difficult conversations, of not avoiding talking about the challenges you experience in your business. And I'm going to kick it off by telling you a great story. But first, I do want to remind you that as we head towards the end of the year and are moving towards the beginning of a new year, I have a free PDF that is going to be super valuable to you in your business. It's called 3 Questions Every Small Business Owner Needs to Answer Before the End of the Year. It's a mouthful. And it is going to help you rethink your relationship with your business as you move into the new year. You could do this anytime. It doesn't have to be the end of the year, but I think this is a time when we're often setting goals. We're thinking about our plans for the coming year, and it can be a great time where small business owners are already in the mindset of thinking about, how do I set things up to serve me best in the coming year so that you don't spend next year working for your business, but you start to set things up so that your business works for you, so that you start to set things up so your business operates on your terms instead of the terms being dictated to you by your business. All right. That is at geoffwelch.com/questions. geoffwelch.com/questions. It's a free PDF. And oh, by the way, at the back of that PDF, there's information on how you can grab one of just a handful of strategy sessions that I'm doing at the end of the year. Free 90-minute strategy session with me to take what you get from working through the 3 questions in this PDF and really dive into it. Really figure out, what's my plan? What do I want to do? How do I make this happen? Okay? If that's interesting to you, geoffwelch.com/questions. Okay, so let's get into this. Nicole and I, in September, we had a chance to go to this resort down near Anchorage here in Alaska, and we've started, when we travel together, if possible, if the resort has one available, we like to do these couples massages. Just really relaxing. We're not looking for anything like therapeutic from a like tissue management. Like, we're not. If it hurts, that we don't want it. Right? I understand there's value in that, but we're looking for relaxation, simple, right? And so the resort down there, she'd gone down for a conference, and so I just met her at the end of the conference, and we spent a couple extra days there. We did a couples massage in the morning, and then they have this Nordic spa, so there are these hot tubs and warming pools and cold plunges and saunas and steam rooms and all this stuff, this beautiful outdoor environment. And there are just all these places to sort of migrate around, and you sort of just spend time where it's comfortable. And so we find ourselves in this warming pool, and there are other people around. This is not private, right? There are people all over the place. And we're in this pool. There's, I don't know, half a dozen, 6 or 8 people that are also in there. And people are just having in 2s and 3s. They're having little conversations with their pot of people. I'm sure some folks are meeting new people and having conversations. I just for somebody who talks to people all the time, the idea of meeting people at the spa has no interest for me, right? So anyway, we're sitting there and we're kind of having some quiet time. We're just kind of sitting there and enjoying the moment and enjoying the ambiance and all that good stuff. And this couple comes into the warming pool and sits near us. They're not like right by us. It wasn't uncomfortable, but they're near us, and it's outside and it's quiet. So I mean, you can hear other people's conversations as they're talking. And this couple comes in, and the conversation basically starts like this, with one of them saying, "Oh, hey, my therapist told me to ask you these questions." So I mean, immediately, as somebody who's 3 or 4 feet away, you're like, what's this all about? And they go on to have what I would call a deeply personal conversation, often argumentative. It was the kind of conversation that I certainly have had with Nicole from time to time that I would never want to have in front of other human beings, because it is a private moment to talk about, how you feel about a thing or what you think the problem is and that kind of stuff, right? But they weren't being loud. They weren't particularly agitated in terms of like, it wasn't, it wasn't like an event that was erupting, but it was what I would call a private conversation, and it's happening here in this very public setting. If I had been a part of it, I would have said, I would love to have this conversation somewhere else at another time, because I would not want to have that in front of other people. And so, but they seemed unfazed by the fact that other people were close by. They did not seem to be filtering themselves greatly based on the fact that other people are around there. I mean, I felt like I knew these people very well by the time they were done with their conversation. But eventually they get up and they move on to another pool. They were going to, go to another area of the thing. And Nicole looks at me, as I knew she would, right? Because Nicole, I share this with her, but she is like an expert level people watcher. Her favorite thing to do at the airport is to just sit there and just watch the people go by. And, we sort of love to look at people, sitting at a restaurant a few tables away and be like, first date, what do you think? What's their connection? What do they do? What's their story? And you sort of make up a backstory for these strangers. It's silly, but it's fun. So, of course, she looks at me as soon as they leave and says, "What was that?" Because it was a lot. And my response, and this is where we're getting to the thing I really want to share with you today, is, well, at least they were still talking, right? Because I think that sometimes we view the argument, sometimes we view the tense conversation as bad. And certainly probably not the most ideal, right? I mean, there are plenty of conversations that are probably better than an argument. But the thing about an argument is that you're both still engaged in whatever is going on. You haven't checked out. You haven't decided this isn't worth talking about, or I don't want to talk about this with you anymore. You are willing to say, let's roll up our sleeves and let's figure this out. There's this Better Than Ezra song that I cannot remember what it is called here. But one of the lyrics has always stood out to me as being sort of like darkly beautiful. And it goes, "I love it when we fight. It makes me think at least you still care." And it's sad, it's heartbreaking, but also it's like this indication of like, we wouldn't be fighting with each other. We wouldn't be willing to argue if we didn't care in some way. And I understand there are unhealthy levels of this. I'm not talking about abusive arguments. I'm not talking about that kind of thing. I'm talking about, the conversations that are sometimes hard to have in any relationship, whether that's with a great friend of yours or with, a wife, partner, spouse, that kind of thing. The conversations we engage in because we care about somebody and we want that relationship to be better than maybe it is in this moment. And we're willing to dig into some of that. And so the reason that I bring that up for you in your small business is that it can be so easy to avoid the issues of the day when we don't know what to do about them. Whether those are financial issues or employee issues or system issues, this is broken and it's not working and I don't know what to do about it. And what I want to offer is that talking about these things, especially with your team or with someone like me, talking through these things is such an important part of moving toward a solution. In some cases, we feel like if I don't know the answer, it's icky and it feels kind of gross to not know what to do next, to not know how to address this, to not know how to solve for this. So instead of talking about it, instead of dealing with it, instead of bringing it up, I'm going to try to ignore it. I'm going to avoid it. I'm going to sort of pretend that it's not really there until something happens and forces my hand. And the thing that I want to offer is just like a couple who is willing to say, let's talk about this thing that's difficult. I think anytime that you are willing to say, hey, team, here's something that we need to be looking for a solution for, or working with a coach to say, hey, here's something I'm wrestling with, and on the surface, I really want to appear like I know what I'm doing and that I'm super smart, but the way to get better is to be willing to say, I'm not sure what to do about this. Can we talk about it? That is such a powerful opportunity to unlock new things because, and I've said it before on the podcast, I really believe a different part of your brain is engaged when you say things out loud versus when you just churn on them, when you just think about them internally. I think there is something about hearing the words back or explaining them to another human person. Maybe it's not even just hearing them. Maybe the same thing could be accomplished by writing it to somebody. But I do think that there is a lot of value in saying, instead of just letting this thing roll around in my head and taking shortcuts because I'm the only audience, if I had to explain this to another person, how would I explain it? I think that often unlocks us seeing it differently. Whatever the problem is, whatever the challenge is, whatever we're trying to work through, it is processed differently when we have to explain it to somebody else. And so that gives us an opportunity sometimes to unlock an idea, a possibility, a pathway that we didn't see when we were just thinking about it. That's one part. Another part is your team will probably surprise you with some of the insights that they have. It can be easy to think, I am the boss, I am the owner, it's my job to solve these problems, and we want to insulate ourselves when our team has a ton of answers. I'm going to give you a really embarrassing example here that all of you will say, well, yeah, I guess if you're a big dummy, then your team could really help you, but I'm smarter than that. Maybe you are. Maybe you aren't. The world is a little different now, but a number of years ago, it was very important for us to keep all of these credit card slips. Somebody would sign a credit card thing, and we'd have to keep all those that paperwork organized. And so what would happen is they were all numbered, they were all sequenced, right? And the first one would get signed, and it would go in the drawer, and the second one would get signed, and it would go on top of the one in the drawer. And while probably not necessary, it was important to me as perhaps somebody who's neurotic, to have them not in reverse order, one on the bottom and the last one on top, but to have them so that they were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the way down through the stack. So at the end of the day, we would flip those credit card receipts around and get them back in 1 to N order, right? And at some point I said, man, I wish we didn't have to do this every day. And someone said, why don't you just put them face down in the drawer? Because if you put them face down in the drawer, the first one is face down on the bottom. They stack up. And then when you turn the stack over, guess what? They are in the correct order. And I don't know how many times I or someone else had done that. Hundreds? Probably. And I had never seen that possibility. Never occurred to me that that was a thing that could happen, right? That it would be so simple, right? How many times I had done that, and there was just this one little change in our process that fundamentally changed what we had to do, right? And I joke around about that because it's such a silly thing. Such a silly thing. But I think the team you work around, and sometimes even just your network of professional associates or a coach that you work with, you will be surprised at how many solutions that they can see that you cannot. And that are literally like, you say it and they're like, what about this? Immediately. And you've been looking at this problem for days, weeks, months, years. No clue that that was a possibility. Talking about the things that aren't working, while sometimes uncomfortable, especially if we feel like we need to be the smartest person in the room. We've got to make sure our staff knows that we're the smartest, and we can't ever let them know that we don't know the answer to something. We want our professional, the people around us, our network, to think that we're super smart and we never need any help. We want our coach to think that we've got it all figured out, which that's not why you engage with the coach, right? And so we don't talk about these things sometimes when the answer literally could be 1 2-minute conversation away. Like the idea, if you think for just a second about something that is vexing you in your business, something that is challenging you right now, like if you could imagine that somebody on your team knows the answer to the problem, you just haven't asked them yet. I mean, that's crazy. It's crazy, but sometimes it is there. Not always. I'm not saying that in every situation you ask your team and they're going to know the answer. But I think it's a little bit like, when we were shopping for our travel trailer, our camper, once you start looking for those, you see them everywhere, especially once we got it. Once we were campers, like once we had a camper, I would see people towing campers everywhere. And that part of your brain gets unlocked that says, this is important information. We should be looking for this, even though you're not actively looking for it. I wasn't driving down the road scanning the horizon for campers, but every time one would pass by, it was like, I wonder where they're going. And the same thing is likely to happen for your team. One, when you talk about it, and two, when you have ongoing conversations about things that haven't been solved yet. How are we doing on this? Anyone got any ideas on that? What do we think? What's a different way we could look at this? To have that conversation with repetition, to be willing to have it over and over again, keeps those things top of mind. It puts you in a position to say, this is something that instead of me thinking about it now, my whole team is thinking about it over and over again. It's something that at some point someone is going to stumble upon a YouTube video or an article, or they're going to have a conversation with a customer. They're going to see something differently because we talked about this, because I kept it top of mind, that they might have missed otherwise, that might have been unimportant information. For many years, I don't know, I couldn't tell you how many campers I ever passed, right? It wasn't important to me. I didn't notice it. Filtered out. Having these conversations, not avoiding the challenges that exist in your business, having those conversations opens the door for you and others to see things that you would not have seen on your own, okay? You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to solve every problem for yourself. Your team can be a tremendous help, but you have to talk to them. You have to include them, okay? Your network can be a tremendous help, but you have to say, this is challenging. What do you think? You got to find those trusted people. Your coach can help you, but you have to be willing to say, I don't know what to do here. I need some insight, right? You have to be willing to be vulnerable and not just prove how smart you are, okay? Avoidance, while comfortable in the moment, it feels good sometimes to just be like, whew, I don't have to worry about that today. I can just ignore it. But avoidance just delays your chance to be free, right? The opportunity that you have to enjoy freedom and to really have the business do what you want it to do is on the other side sometimes of having these challenging conversations. Maybe don't have them in a public space right next to a bunch of other people you don't know if they're emotionally charged, but you get my drift, right? Okay, that's it from me. Do not forget, if you are interested in approaching the new year with a clearer picture of how to make your business work for you. Not for you to work for your business to work for you. I hope you will go to jeffwelch.com/questions and grab my PDF called 3 Questions Every Small Business Owner Needs to Answer Before the End of the Year. Again, in that, you're going to get 3 questions that are going to help challenge your thinking as you approach the new year. And you will also have the opportunity to score a free 90-minute strategy session with me before the end of the year. Okay? I'm just doing a handful of those. Get in there and find out about it. jeffwelch.com/questions. All right. I hope you will start to have some more conversations around the things that aren't as easy as you'd like them to be, so that you can start getting closer to the answers you need. Okay? Don't forget, your business is not your boss.